time, I'd like to call to order the February 7th Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Staff, can you please call the roll so we can establish a quorum?
At this time, I am only asking those TAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TAC representative. Jim Bell,
Here.
Naresh Marchavarapu, Amanda Radigan, Jason Kaufman,
Here.
Denise Malone,
Here.
Terrence Bailey,
Here.
John Paul O'Connor,
Present.
Alex Hansen,
Here.
Jessica Keller,
Here.
Kenny Wilson,
Here.
Andrew Gamboa Villamil,
Here.
Brian Davis,
Kevin Fisher for Brian Davis.
Josh Nagel, Aaron Hoffman,
Here.
Joyce Kai,
Here.
Lorraine Cargill, Thomas Hernandez,
Here.
Anders Vian, Kim Delaney, Kim Glass Castro,
Present.
Christopher Marsh, Jonathan Rainsvold,
Present.
Cesar Martinez,
Tony Noret for Cesar Martinez.
Natalie Crowley,
Here.
Mo Alturk,
Melissa Ackert here from Moel Turk.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Come on up, Tom. Please note for the record, Thomas Lanahan has joined on behalf of Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Okay, thank you. Staff, are there any other modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, the following members are requesting TAC permission to participate remotely. Joyce Kai is requesting virtual attendance due to a scheduling conflict. Josh Nagel is requesting virtual attendance due to health reasons. Vicky Gatanis is requesting virtual attendance due to medical reasons, and Christopher Marsh is online as well.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. TAC members, are there any objections to allowing these members participate remotely? Okay, seeing none, these members are approved to participate remotely. Staff, if you can please note their attendance in the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 1C, the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for December 6th, 2023, which was our last meeting? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Denise. I didn't catch the second. Oh, Aaron, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item D, public comments and general public comments and public comments on the agenda. Instructions on how to provide the public comments are included in the agenda. Staff, are there any general comments? Have you received any?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Moving on to the next agenda item 1E. Comments from the chair and any member comments.
Chair,
Yes.
quick question for staff, and I guess this would be the appropriate point. Because the LRTP is on the agenda for 2045, I believe we're in the process for updating the 2050 LRTP. Do you have an ETA when we'll get the next update, progress, where we're at? And if it's not scheduled, if by the next meeting, we could just get a general schedule on the LRTP?
Yes, so we will be providing I will be incorporating an update into the 2045 item today, more or less a high level update. And we will be bringing back some additional information next month. So we need to adopt that plan by December of this year. So we're going to have some very aggressive updates over the next couple of months, I'd say. Thanks.
Right, thank you, Nathan. Terrence, is that all? Okay, thank you. Do any other members have comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to item 1F, the TAC liaison report. Nathan.
Thank you. Oh, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I will turn the baton back over to you we put this in for your chair comments.
Thank you so much, Nathan, and thank you so much, staff. I did want to take a moment during this very brief report just to share some fun pictures. The City of Palm Beach Gardens recently hosted Public Safety Day. This is typically an event that's hosted in collaboration with our fire department and our police department, and it's a wonderful family-friendly event. But this year, as part of the city's Vision Zero initiative, the planning and zoning team headed up a collaborative team, including police and fire, and our public facilities played a huge role in creating a pop-up traffic garden as Public Safety Day. And so you can see some pictures on the screen of what the city did. I think the best picture of the whole is the drone on the upper right, where you can see the layout. And I have to give huge credit to our facilities staff. They just took this idea and it was just incredible of how much they embraced it and ran with it. We have a sign shop internal to our as part of our city operations, and they created railroad crossing signs and stop signs. They even purchased a mini traffic light, and they did up a whole plan to scale. And we just came up with the idea, and then they came up with this whole plan. Joanne Scaria, who is on on the tax VSAC committee, had gone through the bike certification program that was recently offered through the TPA staff. And so as part of her participation in this program, she received free bike helmets, this is how you learn to attach a bike helmet properly. And so as part of that program, which is an amazing benefit, we had, I think, close to 100 bike helmets that we gave out free to children. So we fastened the helmets and the children participated. And I just wanted to take a moment. Thank you for letting me indulge, because it was a really fun event. And I think we're looking to do something permanently after everybody participated. The city is looking at a spot where we can do this on a more permanent basis. Oh, and I forgot, Jack the Bike Man participated as well. And so as part of each of the participation with the children, you were able to enter into a raffle. And then at the end of the day, we gave out 2 free bikes. And there was a bike donation program as well. So I think Jack the Bike Man received several bikes donated that day. So it was a really awesome time. And I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you for including that update. We did really enjoy the opportunity to highlight this engagement opportunity. Coming from DC, I've seen these engagement and encouragement activities a lot up there. There's actually one of these built under the I-495 Woodrow Wilson Bridge, the Capitol Beltway outside of DC. So you'll see a lot of these educational opportunities for young kids to learn how to ride around the country. So it's very exciting to see that here locally. So officially moving on to item 1F, the liaison report. I'll walk through a couple of items. You'll find the full report up on our website after the meeting. So for this month, we want to highlight again for everybody that the Transportation Alternatives Program application deadline is coming up. It's February 16th, applications that are due. You'll find more information on the website, palmbeachtpa.org/TA. Also, we wanted to highlight for everybody the Safe Streets Summit. I know a number of our folks on TAC or in our different committees attend that. It's going to be February 29th and March 1st at the Intercontinental in Miami. You'll find more details about that event, safestreetsummit.org. Registration is coming up in like a little over a week. So if you do plan to attend, just make sure you get registered soon. Florida Bicycle Month is the month of March. So TPA is going to be hosting several events that we're going to highlight for you here today. Safe Bicycling Webinar on March 12th, and then a bicycle ride on March 29th. That's being hosted by City West Palm Beach. We're joining them for that. Find more details about those events as they come up, palmbeachtpa.org/walkbike. Also want to highlight for everybody, an upcoming event. We're going to do a Safe Streets and Roads for All roundtable. So this is the federal grant program that is in our region working towards safety action plans. So we're going to provide some opportunity for folks to engage and have dialogue around that process. That event's going to be held at the TPA on April 4th. You'll find more details at our website, SS4A Roundtable. We do still have a lot of engagement going on with the Vision 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan, as Terrence asked about earlier. We're currently in the process of cleaning up all of the data that we received through the call for projects. We'll be sharing information back out to everybody who submitted. We're also going to be highlighting for you any of the submissions that happened in your community on your behalf. So anything that FDOT or the county may have put in for their municipals, we'll also highlight back for those stakeholders, the larger stakeholders, any proposals from the locals that may have impacted their roads. So that's a quick update that I'll maybe touch on a little bit more when we get to that item. Today, we're just highlighting that you can still provide input on the survey. Road to Zero Community Traffic Safety Grants, that deadline is upcoming February 14th. So happy Valentine's Day to them. You can find more details there. I think this truncated URL should work. So tinyurl.com/R2Z grant. A couple of final updates. So FDOT's going to be hosting a Title VI and ADA subrecipient training. This is a requirement if you're going to be a local, doing local project delivery. So that's a good opportunity for you if you do locally administer your projects to go and get that training. It's February 15th at the FDOT District 4 Auditorium in West Palm Beach, which is kind of between Green Acres and Wellington. You'll find details floridaltap.org. And the final update, just a reminder, I believe it's the final update anyway, AARP Community Challenge Grant applications are due March 6th. So find more details, aarp.org/livable-communities. Do have a couple more updates. Sorry about that. FDOT Local Road Safety Program applications are due March 15th. So this is an opportunity to get safety projects in. So you can contact Angie Hoodell. I don't know the pronunciation, but the email's up on the screen. And final reminder is that USD Grant Navigator is a great information resource for all things federal government, anything related to federal transportation and the bill IIJA. So feel free to keep perusing the Grant Navigator for more information. That concludes my update. Thanks.
Thank you, Nathan. Staff, are there any public comments on any of these items?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, does the committee member have any comments on the liaison report? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on. That brings us to action items. We only have one item for action on today's agenda. So at this time, I'd like to invite Andrew Euler, the Deputy Director of Programs, to present this item. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the action item for you today is performance measures, and this is target setting for safety. So this is the federal required performance measure that MPOs across the nation are required to set targets for annually. There's multiple other measures involved in federal performance measures. Last year, we had travel time reliability, we had bridges, we had pavement. Those are set at different time periods. The only one that's really annually is the safety targets. Why do we do performance measures? Many are familiar with this, but we have our 2045 long-range transportation plan. We have our vision and mission set out in that. And performance measures are our way of tracking our progress towards that. And not only that, it really is supposed to influence how we prioritize our funds. And the federal required ones, as I mentioned, bridge, pavement, travel time reliability, and safety. The safety measures, there's 5 measures that are required. These are for roadway safety, and it's fatalities, the rate of those fatalities per 100 billion vehicle miles traveled, the number of serious injuries, so those are incapacitated injuries, the rate of those, and then the combined number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So those are pedestrians and bicyclists. And these are ones involved in a crash with the vehicle. And so previously, when it came to target setting for safety, we've been required to set targets all the way back to 2018. And that's when we first adopted zero as our targets for all 5 of those measures. And so every year annually since then, in line with Vision Zero, we've adopted targets of 0, and that's going to be the staff recommendation again this year in 2024. In 2018, we were also tasked in creating a Vision Zero action plan to push towards what we could do as a metropolitan plan organization into increasing safety. That action plan was adopted in 2019 and then updated in 2021. And we have some updates on those as well. That was provided in a backup. The state has also adopted 0 as their measures, their targets for safety. They're required to set their measures before we do. And then MPOs have 180 days after they set their targets for us to set our targets. And so this year, again, AFDOT has set a target of 0 for all those safety measures for 2024. And then at the national level, although it's not a one-year target, US DOT does have a long-term target of 0 into the future. In your backup, it was provided this summary of the measures, the first column being the 5 years prior, and then for 2013 to 2017 average, and then how we're looking in the past 5 years going to 2022. There has been an increase in fatalities within Palm Beach County. We're now close to 200 lives lost every year. That is a trend that unfortunately has happened not only here in Palm Beach County, it is happening in our state and then also nationwide. The fatality rate has also increased in that time frame. So even though vehicle miles traveled have gone up, fatality rate is rising faster than the fatalities are rising faster than the VMT. When it comes to serious injuries, though, there has been some decrease on average within our county. This is also a trend that's happening state and nationwide, and the rate of those serious injuries has declined. And then lastly, for our most vulnerable users, the pedestrian bicyclists, we're about the same as we have been, 10 years ago. It's been flatline about that when it comes to pedestrian bicycle fatalities and serious injuries. There has been a rise in fatalities for pedestrians and bicyclists. When you include the serious injuries, it has maintained around a steady amount of 200 per year. And so just showing a few charts or graphs to go with the tables that were just provided. Here's just seeing the fatalities since 2006 overlaid with the vehicle miles traveled and that increase. So even though VMT is increasing, we are increasing at a higher pace with fatalities. You'll see that it started to reduce fatalities started to reduce going into about 2010 timeframe. That's also a sort of nationwide phenomenon when it came to reductions. It's really been in these past few years where the fatalities have started to climb back up again nationwide. 2023 data is not fully in the system yet. We pulled these from Signal 4. That is updated every day. So when that data becomes more and more cleaned up, that number will be more accurate. Right now we're looking, I think it's around 170, 180 for 2023. Hopefully that maintains, doesn't climb up any further than that. We should be expecting that final number within the coming months. Same chart, this time with population instead of VMT. This is also requested often. We talk about population increases, especially in Florida and then also in Palm Beach County, and that there's a rapid boom in population since COVID. Our numbers have gone up on average, since the past. However, we have had a pretty steady population growth through the years. And so when you put that over fatalities, we are still also increasing fatalities faster than our rate for population growth. So why is this occurring? I don't have a lot of slides on this one. What I'm really just going to show you is a tool from Signal 4 Analytics. All the public has this available. The media has this. They can all go to the link on the Signal 4 page, and it has a dashboard, and they can put in the years and the types of emphasis areas. And then you all as practitioners in the field, you can request Signal 4 and actually get more into the data, and they have some tools in there for you, and you can actually export data. And our staff does that frequently. That's how we come up with those pedestrian bicycle corridor reports for you all. I'm just showing a snapshot of Palm Beach County emphasis areas, and then also the statewide emphasis areas. This is on the main part of the dashboard. And just important things to mention on this, sort of the top emphasis areas that AFDOT is focusing on are some of the ones that Palm Beach County has as a top as well. So lane departures, intersections, and pedestrian bicyclists. And when you go down the list, there's for Palm Beach County, there's aging road users. Speeding, aggressive driving, and impaired driving have also been two major factors within Palm Beach County at the statewide level. And that's what was provided in the Vision Zero action plan when we published that. And so what are we doing about it? At the MPO level, so our level, we have the Vision Zero action plan. So we're moving towards what we can do as an MPO. At the national level, there's the National Road Safety Strategy. So they've have a lot of discretionary grants out there now for safety. So really pushing towards putting more money towards this. They're also the ones who are involved in the update of the national design standards. They're also the ones involved in our vehicle technology and try to make the vehicles safer. So there is a national roadway strategy out there, and they actually have an action plan that shows a lot of great progress updates on their website. And then the state, who's also set a Vision Zero target, has the Highway Safety Improvement Program, and that really tries to focus on their emphasis areas as well and how they're going to implement those. And then at the local level, again, we have a Vision Zero action plan, but there's multiple adoption of Vision Zero cities within our county who are now moving towards Vision Zero and integrating that into their plans at the city level. And then many of our municipalities have also, in the county as well, have received money from the Safe Streets for All federal grant to create a roadway safety plan. So a lot of movement at the local level as well when it comes to setting actions for the future to drive down fatalities and serious injuries. So in our planning efforts, when it comes to our action plan, and then what our staff does sort of on a daily basis throughout the year, promoting police streets, so design, guidance, and implementation of that. We have 6 municipalities who have adopted those. We have 13 who adopted Vision Zero and are pushing those at the city level. Trying to provide grant support, and a lot of our programs do go towards safety in the scoring. And we also try to support any of those Safe Streets for All letters or other applications that are going out there. And then we're trying to participate in those events that you all put on, that FDOT puts on as well. And then lastly, this was a request just to stay on top of it and keep it in everyone's forefront of their minds is we do pull that Signal 4 data and we provide that pedestrian bicycle quarterly crash report. That's a summary of crashes within the county. So again, our Vision Zero action plan, I provided a few updates there. Specifically for this plan, it's broken down into policy, funding, and cultural actions. These are all geared towards trying to gear towards what an MPO can accomplish. So even though there are stakeholders in these actions, it's really how does the MPO influence that stakeholder or can assist them? And so some larger ones that occurred this past year, House Bill 317, Senate Bill 258 at the state level was one when it came to speed enforcement within school zones. So automated speed enforcement has been a proven countermeasure at the federal level. And so it's great to see some implementation of that countermeasure moving forward at the state level. We're also working towards a speed management action plan here at the TPA. So identifying those high-speed roadways and how we can bring down the speed by assessing the target speed of those roadways. And then working with FDOT and Palm Beach County for pedestrian signals at a few locations. Some pictures from our events this past year. And then this one doesn't involve us too much. We are involved in this through, national committees or at the statewide level with a few committees. And many of you may be involved as well, but updates to the Unified Traffic Control Device Manual and also the Floor Design Manual, both of those, I believe, have been updated or in the process of being updated pretty recently. I think we're going to try to have some type of informational session on that in the coming year to get more into what those changes were. But it's great to see, I believe, some incorporation of more safety treatments within those documents. And again, this is a repeat of that first summary of our fatalities and serious injuries in our county. Again, trending in the wrong direction when it comes to fatalities. Again, the staff is recommending proposed targets for 2024 of 0 for all of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so at this time, do we have any committee members wishing to make comment on this agenda item? Yes, Aaron, you're recognized.
Andrew, are there any measurements being taken on the use of mobile devices while driving that can perhaps tell us that the update on the new technology we're using as a distraction to driving? Is anybody measuring that the causation while using mobile devices while driving?
I'll have to refer, I don't know if our staff has any thoughts on that. Maybe Nathan George has something. I know we have, you're talking about more about the measurement of it itself and probably national studies on that. Obviously here in Florida, we have texting while driving. It doesn't go entirely hands-free. Other states have moved that direction, but I guess Nathan, if you want to mention anything, that's okay.
Yeah, just it's more of an anecdotal observation, but when I was at TRB a little over a year ago, there was a gentleman from NHTSA who was looking back through FARS or fatality reporting system data. They said that they were able to say with a relative high level of certainty that there's a lot of distraction based on data, based on crash coincidences and all the factors associated with it. I forget exactly what the number was he was quoting at that time, but technology and its influence in things like rear end crashes that you would typically expect is a number that's rising, and it's very significant. I don't know that they could enumerate it to like an exact data point, but he had some percentages, so they have an idea. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Acker from Palm Beach County Traffic Division. I was just looking at the backup and I noticed there were just some typos in the resolution. The word whereas was spelled wrong in a few places.
Okay, I believe this is a draft resolution, so staff,
Yes.
if you could just take a look at that.
It goes
before-
out tomorrow, so that's good. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Do any, Alex, you're recognized. Yeah.
As part of the packet that we were provided, there was this 2023 performance measures report card. That includes not only some safety measures, but deals with maintenance, deals with efficiency of the transportation system. I didn't see much of a discussion. Yes, we went over some of the safety numbers. I'm just not sure, are we recommending approval of this performance report card too or not? I have a few comments on that that are not necessarily dealing with the safety part, but more of the maintenance and performance aspect of it.
We, and that's a good point, Alex. Sorry, I didn't indicate that. In the backup, there is the performance measures report card. So that's not part of the action today. That was just for informational purposes. It is provided in the same agenda item. We lumped it in there, and I didn't really discuss too much on that, but we can answer questions on that as well. Or we can try to do a more detailed presentation as an info item.
It's just that I have a few comments. A couple of them are just comments. They're items that were identified as getting worse. Actually, the numbers showed that they're getting better. So we had a red versus green code here. For a couple of them, this is the percentage of the road system in good condition, both the interstate and the non-interstate system. The percentage is going up. and exceeded the thresholds, the targets. However, it is identified in red in the table.
Okay.
So it should be green. And then I also had a question on some of the maintenance for Tri-Rail. The number of facilities in poor state went from 5% 2021 to 33% in 2022. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that was the change for every piece of infrastructure in Tri-Rail. So I'm not sure how, yeah, and how that could, how those facilities could have gotten so bad so quickly in a year. And then my final comment has to do with, we are also showing the productivity, the passenger trips per revenue hour for Tri-Rail and PAMTran. I would suggest if we can get the data that now we should start incorporating Brightline, which is a significant component of our transit system here in South Florida. So, and I know sometimes that getting their data is a little bit more tricky, but I think it's very significant nowadays. So it should be somehow reflected in this data.
Okay.
Staff, do you have any comments or can you respond to
Sure.
this?
Sure, yes. Thank you for catching those. We'll make sure we have the colors correct on the trend for those. And you talked about a lot of the asset conditions. So I'll look at that and the Tri-Rail one you mentioned for maintenance facilities. Passenger trips per revenue hour. It's easy for us to get the Palm Tran and the SFRTA one because they're in the National Transit Database. And so it's easy to pull those. Brightline, I don't know if we're going to be able to get that, but we can see if we can start.
They're now receiving federal funding from the infrastructure bill that was approved. So I assume that as a result of that, some of the ridership data has to be made public for them to receive those millions and millions of federal funds. So
You want to, Brian?
Hey, Brian Rooster, Deputy Director of Multimodal. At this point, we don't see any obligations for Brightline to report that data. It's also a private entity. We're reporting on public assets and as they're maintained in this performance measure scorecard. So Brightline might not be the best asset to track for our federal performance standards. That's more or less how our area is graded. And since it's a private entity, no one represented on this body actually has a say in how those facilities are maintained. So I would suggest we can ask frequently for updates from Brightline, but tracking it as part of our federal performance measures probably wouldn't be the most advantageous effort for the committee to pursue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Tom.
Thank you. Just building on that for 1 second, the Brightline issue, and then Alex took almost all the rest of my comments, but I have something else. So on Brightline, I know that with bond refinancing that they've been doing, they have shared out there to at least the financial community a lot of ridership numbers. I don't know that they have revenue hours, but you might be able to, with the train schedule and those ridership numbers kind of smash together something that might give some kind of an indication of kind of where their trend is. A question on the safety measures. Is there any correlation that has been done or could be done between collector and arterial roads that are lit, that have streetlights versus crash data? And I bring this up specifically because I happened to be going down 10th Avenue North last night between Congress and I-95. And other than private parking lot lighting that's out there, that road is not lit. And that's a pretty busy street. And it is in central Palm Beach County, which is in the bicycle pedestrian crash hotspot areas of the county. And I would, one of the other things things that happens because the road has no lights on it, parking lot by parking lot, you get very bright black, very bright black. And that's, your eyes adjusting back and forth and the rest of that. So I would be interested if there is a way to see if there is a data correlation. My gut tells me a lit road is safer, but I don't know if the numbers prove that out or not. So I just see if that's something that you all could look at, or if there's studies out there or something like that. Thank you.
Can we respond?
Staff, would you like to
Sure, yeah.
respond?
Yep, it's a really good point. I didn't mention it here, but the data does include from the police report, time of day and the condition of the roadway, or sorry, the lighting of the roadway, and if it's dark or light outside as well. That is a measure reported by law enforcement. It does show a prevalence of nighttime, dark, unlit crashes. So we have that data as sort of the starting point. And that's something that we do look at. The other part of that, which would be great to have, that is a really tough one from a data inventory perspective, is the actual locations of the light poles. I know District 4 FDOT has had an effort underway in the past, and we're talking about this internally actually as staff a couple of days ago about seeing where that is in their efforts to get that updated. They had a lot of tough times trying to get it from FPL. And so when things move to, when light poles move, it's not like it's a database that was easy, that was maintained as cleanly as hoped, it sounded like. So it just wasn't an accurate data set. So that is hopefully long-term something that we can pull from FDOT and their collaboration with FPL.
Okay, thank you, staff. I see Jason.
Thank you. First, just to build on what Aaron said, I also, my eyes were drawn to the date of 2011 for those graphs. Because that really is the boom, when the boom in, technology for cell phones, smartphones began. So I'd also be interested in seeing, correlation of data between distracted driving and the crash severity and fatalities. But my initial comment was going to be about the cross section you showed for the bike path and sidewalk off street. Do you think the MUTCD and the FDOT design manual is going to be moving away from the combined shared use paths and going towards something like that instead?
Definitely going to ask Nathan or Brian on that one, if they've gotten into the details of that yet.
All right, I won't be able to speak to the FDOT criteria or the FDOT consideration. I'll defer to Brian on that. Basically, there's a context consideration when you're talking about facility design. And I think you have to acknowledge how users are going to operate in the environment and what the environment is you're building the facilities for. So selection of the appropriate facility type, there's a great guide from Federal Highways Bikeway Selection Guide, provides some context that should guide your selection of the appropriate facility and whether or not you should have physically segregated bike and ped facilities versus having shared use facilities. What you will tend to find as you look at making facility selections, and this is me speaking as a former designer of bike and ped facilities, you want to provide those physically segregated facilities where you have a lot of mixing of the both modes, which tends to happen in more urban environments. And that's where you have to take the more aggressive stance. We're going to provide physically segregated facilities for both. If we're talking about a suburban highway or a suburban context street, you're probably going to be fine with a mixed use facility because the users can manage their conflicts more easily. You don't have as much mixing with traffic. So context really drives the whole decision. There are also ways that you can layer in count data and make decisions based on how many users, of each road type, auto, bike, and pedestrian, and that will help inform your selection of the appropriate facilities. I'll let Brian speak to the Florida and FDOT as well.
So I think it's important to recognize that this is not a full integration of the new MUTCD into the Florida Design Manual. It is incorporating some of the new design criteria, but all state DOTs are given 2 years to update their design manuals after they publish the MUTCD. We are also anxiously waiting, and Nathan and I have talked about this before, the update to the AASHTO bike manual, which will dramatically influence, I believe, a lot of bicycle facilities that are going to come out. And since there's a pretty substantial time gap between when the MUTCD is published and when the states are required to adopt, I'm guessing that we're probably going to see something after the AASHTO bike manual come out for Florida DOT. I do recommend looking at the section, I believe it's 223 for FTM. It has modifications to the separated bike lane criteria, as you saw on the screen, the shared use path or bike lane with shared use path, bike lane with sidewalk treatment that FDOT has allowed. We heard a lot of commentary about that specific type of facility on US 1 in Jupiter in Juno Beach when we did our public meetings and outreach for that ultimate project that's now in the list of priority projects. So that could be a potential incorporation in design solution and more of a suburban highway context where we might need to provide a bike lane off of a higher speed road. So if there are no questions, then I'll be happy to yield back to the chair.
Are there any other comments from staff regarding that question from Jason? Seeing none? Okay. So, thank you. Naresh.
Just a comment and one question. I think it's concerning to see the increasing trend involving total fatals and serious injuries for all roadway users. But at the same time, it's slightly comforting to see the trend for pets and bikes remain flat. We would hope to see it goes down, but in the overall context, it's a good feeling to see the trend is flat. I'm curious to see what % of the total fatals and serious injuries involved vulnerable road users. Is it a bigger percentage, or is the percentage remain constant or going down? And another aspect of that, most of the focus been involved in multimodal improvements, ped bikes, separated bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, all good. But given the context, the trend is going up for the all road users. Are there any other highlighted areas we could be looking at it potentially? It could be a signalized intersections, a lot of people running red light, or a speeding issue, or maybe the lighting concerns. Are there any other focus areas we should be start looking, given that we are achieving the results what we want to see in terms of multimodal improvements? Are there any other areas that started popping up we need to be start focusing on, and how could we incorporate those factors when local agencies apply for the funding and go to DOT and counties to see, hey, these are our areas we want to be able to see other funding opportunities to address those elements and bring the crashes down.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, please.
we publish every quarter a crash report, which highlights some of these trends and statistics. And actually on your agenda today, at your behest, you can request a presentation from Valentina Cuse, who has prepared with Margie Tamblin our Q3 for 2023 quarterly crash report, which highlights some of these issue areas. Largely, we're seeing that arterials are responsible for a majority of the serious injuries and fatalities for non-motorized crashes. And there are some crashes would happen in dark areas or unlit areas, I should say, in addition to areas that crashes which happen when there are wet conditions on the road, some crashes that happen that are related to aging, distracted driving, and other kind of emphasis areas that are around the state. And generally speaking, the total number of ped bike fatalities is going up. And I think it's important to point out that over the past few years, serious injuries trended downward, fatalities have trended upwards, and there's a discussion, and it hasn't been fully studied yet about if those serious injuries are just being replaced with fatalities. But that hasn't been fully kind of, vetted by the state. I mean, obviously the crashes that you see, if you look at our maps and our crash reports, our system is entirely random because the system is designed in the same way. It just so happens that there's an unlucky occurrence at a specific date and time. So I would suggest taking a look at the quarterly crash reports from the previous few years that are online, looking at those, and then working with the DOT Safety Office, Palm Beach County, and then others who would be able to come up with crash modification factors for the specific design characteristics of the road that would help alleviate the serious and fatal crashes. So.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Brian. At this time, I'd like to recognize Joyce Kai with the school district who's online.
Yes. Actually, I have a question as also related to the crash report. So I did see the pedestrian and the bicyclist is ranked number 3 in these emphasis areas. So I'd like to know, do you have the breakdown of age that to show, if they are related to the school age students, for those, serious injuries and fatalities? So
We
Like, you
do,
know,
we do have that information available, but we do not share those crash reports. We more or less require the agencies to go in and pull their own crash reports. But that's very sensitive information that we don't share with the crash report data, but we do go in and evaluate all of the crash report statistics and information that's provided in a crash report from the police on the scene. So we do have that information, but we don't publish it in that specific way. I would venture to guess the top 5 emphasis areas, and this is just me trying to recall them from, memory for the state, were intersections, pedestrian and bicycle, lane departure, intoxicated driving, and I believe the fifth is slipping me, but for the most part, the county represents the same crash statistics with the exception that instead of impaired driving, we have aging drivers. So that is kind of the top 4 that I could recall from that categories of 8 for what it's worth. So Joyce, if you're interested in getting those crash reports and that data, and if there are crashes in particular, I'd recommend reaching out to Valentina Facuse, our pedestrian and bicycle coordinator, to get that information, and she'll get you set up through your agency for Signal 4, and then you can see the full details that we're able to evaluate.
okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other member cards at this point in time? Yes, Melissa, you're recognized again.
Melissa Acker from Palm Beach County Traffic. I was just making another observation, just building off of what you guys were all talking about. It was interesting on the graphs that you showed that, with the increase in volume, there was also an increase in intersection level crashes, and that's a lot of times is also related to congestion. It could be lighting. So there's a lot of factors that we need to consider when we look at the intersection type crashes, because intersections a lot of times have a high frequency of rear end crashes. I think distracted driving is also a big factor in intersection level crashes. So there's a lot of things that we need to consider in addition to everything you also have mentioned. But there is a correlation with congestion and intersection level crashes. So that's not surprising, I guess, to see. So that was it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Am I missing anybody at this point in time? Does anybody have any other comments? I just have a couple comments just from listening to a good discussion. It seems that we heard some good comments on distracted driving from several members. I think we can all acknowledge that this is a big issue. I appreciate Jason's comments very much of potentially looking into the trend of when cell phone technology came in and why that explains that huge rise. And I think that I noticed in your scoring card that as one of the criteria for the scoring card for TPA staff, legislation is already an existing policy. And so I think just a couple years ago, the texting while driving was moved from a secondary offense to a primary offense, which was very effective in having more enforcement. And I would just encourage, I don't think any modifications are necessary, but as in that conversation of tools that staff can utilize in the legislation, there could be pieces of legislation that move through the state's system every year in which TPA can advocate for, such as that piece of legislation that was recently, approved that made it, a primary offense at least. So that was just I thought a good point. I also thought the Brightline point was very interesting. And even though it may not be integrated apples to apples into the existing federal methodology, I think it would be interesting data to look at, just if nothing else, just to see ridership data and to see how, because I think we're all interested as this group. So if there is any chance to get our hands on anything from Brightline, I think that might be interesting, just for nothing else to look at it. So I appreciate those comments. My couple suggestions, I think it would be really effective if there's a way that we can take some of the data that you showed, Andrew, and map it. Because a map just speaks a million words. So if we can integrate some of the crash data into an actual visual. I've attended several sessions before where, where the GIS data maps the crashes. And then from that, you can extrapolate, whether there's lighting or, where the intersections are. And so it's very effective. And, lo and behold, where are all the crashes? Well, they're on high-speed facilities, at the major intersections. It's sort of, sort of a no-brainer, but you see it and it's plain as day. And so in our Vision Zero plan that the city has done, we've been able to take that crash data. One of the biggest tools that we'd had is we plotted it all on a map. We plotted not just the fatalities, but the minor crashes or the serious crashes. And maybe there's a way in coming together and sharing that GIS data that we can actually see trends as it relates to, all the things that I think that we discussed today. So I would say if there's a way that we can do that, that would that would just take all this data to a whole different level. So with that, I'm going to close the discussion and may I have a motion, please, on this agenda item? Terrence.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item 3A, information items.
Good morning
Nathan.
again. So Nathan George, Long Range Transportation Plan Coordinator. I'm here today to present to you LRTP Amendment 2045, Amendment number 3. And Terrence already aptly pointed out, why is Nathan here talking about the old LRTP again? So I'll walk you through the importance of this process that we're going to undertake and then the steps to get this amendment adopted. So our 2045 LRTP Amendment number 2 was adopted late last year, October of 2023. We did that process to incorporate TIP and STIP updates. So basically all the funding that had happened since this document had originally been adopted late 2019 and then most recently had been amended in 2020. And then we also demonstrated fiscal constraints. We made sure that the finances all checked out. This process is really us working with the locals to incorporate updates in what we have as the local prioritization section of the 2045 plan. So these are your locally funded projects. So we want to incorporate any updates that we have for those, and it demonstrates TPA support when those projects are included in the LRTP. You're going to understand in a few minutes why that is so immensely important and how that's informing the 2050 plan update. So LRTP local prioritization, for anybody who needs a refresher, who hasn't cracked open your 2045 in a while. So these are the projects that will be delivered using local funds. These are your dollars. They may include some outside, but it has no federal and no state funding tied to it, unless you haven't told us and it's not included in our plans. Basically assume it's not in our plans. TPA has no knowledge of any federal or state dollars being attributed to those projects. That means they're not included in the 2045 LRTP cost feasible plan, which was that amendment number 2 that we adopted last year. TPA concurs or provides that recognition that these projects we're incorporating include some regional benefit. So this is not going to be like sidewalks on your neighborhood street, but it is going to be projects that do provide some regional benefits, our major streets or transportation infrastructure like our transit system. The goal of this update is really to support our local applicants, our municipalities, as they're pursuing any updates or any of those new federal funding opportunities if you're going for federal discretionary grant programs. I'm highlighting here the bright line, which came up a little bit during discussion today. That received a large infusion of federal dollars. Would that project have occurred if it was not in the LRTP and it didn't have that infusion of federal dollars? Most likely it would have, but it would have been slower. So this is really the opportunity to inject transformative federal influence into our local transportation system, receiving those federal grants. I promised you in a minute you'd understand why this is so important. So I directly excerpt out of the 2024 NOFO, or Notice of Funding Opportunity, for the RAISE grant program, which is an upcoming grant cycle that's about to close. This is the direct text. I'm not going to read it, but I included it in the presentation just so you can all see it. If you have a project that you want to submit for discretionary programs, they will often ask, is this project in the local, in the MPO or state plan? If the answer is no, they're going to ask you, what is your plan to get it into that plan? Because we expect to see that concurrence from your regional planning partner If you don't have that demonstrated, the Fed could say no. So it's really important that these projects that you're pursuing, federal grants, the discretionary ones, we get them into these plans. And so it's important for us also to be reviewing and ensuring that they are providing that benefit. So we're going to highlight for you the 4 projects that have been submitted so far. And we notified everybody of this by email, and we've mentioned it in past meetings. We've received 4 projects. 3 of them are new. One of these is a project that West Palm Beach wants to build a new road effectively. It's not much of a road because most of the road's already there, but they're going to close a gap across the FEC. So that's the Fern Street extension here in downtown. That would connect Australian Avenue to Tamarind, providing a new 4-lane connection in the downtown area. Effectively, this would be a reliever of the Okeechobee corridor. So that's a project that they are carrying forward, and we're including here. Again, these are locally funded projects. They do have dollars assigned to them. If there's not dollars, project is really just a desire as far as this plan is concerned. So that project has current committed funding, but it does have a large outstanding balance. Another project that was provided to us is a previously funded and not already included in the LRTP RAISE discretionary grant award for the West Palm Beach on the Rise. So that's a number of improvements up in the Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard area that will provide transformative improvements for those neighborhoods. I'm not going to read all the details, but we're really just incorporating that as it is an awarded RAISE discretionary grant. So we're going to incorporate that for consistency. And then 2 we got from the county. These are both bridge projects. And as I mentioned, we had 3 new and 1 that's more or less an update. So we're adding in the operations and maintenance section of the LRTP, the George Bush over Intercoastal Waterway Bridge replacement. So this is replacement of a bascule bridge project that's currently in design or has current design dollars attributed to it at least. And then the final project is really more of an update, but we're just capturing updated financing and project descriptions for Palm Beach Lakes at FEC rail grade separation, which is another FEC rail and road intersection project. Here's a quick map to show you where those projects are located. 3 of them are in the downtown West Palm Beach area. Another one's down just outside of Delray Beach, just on the north side of downtown. And so the next steps for this process. This plan is out for public review and comment. If we've missed anything, I expect folks will notify us through this review period. So palmbeachtpa.org/LRTP toward the bottom of the page. If anybody has a comment to share on the projects that they see here, or if a project was missing, that's a good way to reach out. Folks can always email me, but that comment is a really good way to provide for us to intake those comments and report back when this project or when this update is brought back for adoption next month. We're presenting to all committees and board this month in February. And then our plan is to finalize and adopt this Amendment 3 at the March 21st board meeting. So you'll see this again next month, and then we'll be bringing it forward for adoption. And that concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Staff, are there any public comments at this time?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, members of the chair, are there any comments on this item? Tom?
Thank you. Regarding the Fern Street extension, a couple of questions on that, which either hopefully you can answer, or if anybody else from West Palm can. The first is it indicates there's associated closure of, I think it says 2.5 existing rail crossings. Do you happen to know where they are? Which ones are getting closed?
I'll defer.
Lots of fingers going around. Oh, when?
We're gonna have
Everybody.
There we go.
Wen Dang, I'm here on behalf of the city of West Palm Beach. Yes, there are 2.5 rail crossing in collaboration with the with FDOT. 2 of them are in Northwest Village at the around 25th, so it's 25th Court and Division Avenue. And the other half closure is actually just south of Okeechobee on Old Okeechobee Boulevard, going into what we used to call the Warehouse District, Jefferson's Terminal District. It's that slip lane
There has been a lot of near miss reportings, and we have been evaluating crashes with the state, and it's the realignment of that project or of that crossing. And then
And that has another crossing like
there is
feet
one
away or something.
closer.
It's very close.
Right, it's very close. Caroline, of course, the city closed Boyd Streets many years ago and did not receive credits for it. Well, we love to get the credits, but essentially it was, this is an effort that started a few years ago. There's, there will be new signalized intersection at that location. If anything, the county has approved the warrant analysis for those two crossings, but that is the 2.5.
Thank you. And then second question, it looks like this is a $41 million project. Considering you can see the one road from the other, why is it so expensive?
Oh, several factor. I think one is the alignment of the preferred alignment of the road. It's an S curve, therefore there's right-of-way acquisition, especially downtown, even though there's small parcels. A lot of utilities, there's actually 2 lift stations that needs to be relocated at that location. Of course, we want, yes, redundancy in our utilities, so there'll be, additional underground improvements. A very large FP&L pole that needs to be relocated, and of course, in collaboration with all that, that it's quite a bit. New signals, drainage, essentially the existing alignment of the track needs to be realigned. Right, for a new road crossing the tract. And then lastly, streetscape element, because we want complete streets and comfortable for all modes of transportation.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Wynn. Kevin.
Tom was reading my mind because that was going to be my question about the 2.5 crossings. But just to briefly jump back to the last item, I saw that last month Brightline issued a press release, and it's just for the month of December, but assuming December is kind of representative of a typical month, they saw ridership of 237,069. And I can email staff this so they have it. I thought what was interesting is 49% of the trips were between the South Florida region and Orlando, and 51% were inner South Florida trips.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Are there any other member comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I have a quick question for staff. So seeing that this was an informational item presented and we're taking action in March on this, is there opportunity to send you information or anything before it comes up for adoption in the event that we've missed something as part of this update, or is it too late?
It's my anticipation that if anybody submits a project, these are, we'll treat them as comments, and I would assume we can incorporate those before we take action on the document. So ideally, we should hear that within the next 2 weeks, so we can provide that in the next agenda item, so we can highlight those. Anything that comes in after agendas are circulated would be more challenging for us to brief you, the committees, and then provide that final recommendation to the board. Fortunately, these are your locally funded projects, so it's a little bit easier for us to just acknowledge this is a project that the local's doing. We're incorporating it by reference, more or less.
Exactly.
But we do need to have that concurrence.
Yes. Okay.
That everybody agrees the project should be included in this plan.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks.
Okay, so there's no action on item 3A, so we're moving on to 3B, which is Florida Bicycle Month. So at this point in time, I would like to invite Valentina Ficus, pedestrian and bicycle coordinator, to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm here to deliver the good news and exciting news, Florida Bicycle Month. So really quickly, my name is Valentina Ficus. I'm the pedestrian bicycle coordinator for the Palm Beach TPA. And for today's presentation, I'll be giving you all a brief overview of some of the upcoming events and activities that we're going to be hosting for Florida Bicycle Month. And to serve as a quick refresher to you all, if you're new to Florida, some of you may not be, but just as a refresher, Florida Bicycle Month is really an opportunity to showcase the many benefits of using a bicycle, showcasing the bicycle state laws, or educating the public on the bicycle state laws, and showcasing the best practices when it comes to designing protected bicycle facilities. So with that, there are 4 different ways that you can get involved. The first one would be to adopt a proclamation. The TPA does encourage all 39 municipalities to adopt a proclamation. So for more information on that, I'll give it in the next slides. You can also participate in our upcoming webinar. We'll have our annual TPA bike ride during this month. And another way that you can get involved is by hosting your own event, whether that's a bicycle ride or just hosting your own bicycle safety focused event, whatever the case it may be, please do let us know. So last year, we had a total of 18 agencies that adopted a proclamation for Florida Bicycle Month. For this year, our goal is 20. So we are looking forward to getting those 20. For the agenda today, you will actually see a template for a proclamation that you can use. Please feel free to use that template. If you would like to modify that language, please feel free to let me know and I can help you modify it. So on the screen before you, you'll see some of the flyers and activities and events that were hosted for Florida Bicycle Month in the past. The city of West Palm Beach typically hosts a Bike to Work Week during this time. And Bike to Work Week is actually a nationally recognized event during May for National Bicycle Month. So they actually took the initiative to host that event for Florida Bicycle Month, which is really exciting. And the TPA we will be collaborating with the city of West Palm Beach and participating in their event for this year. So we're excited for that. We have also heard from other municipalities, potentially the village of Palm Springs and Lake Park, they'll be participating on that. So if you will be hosting an event for Florida Bicycle Month, please do let us know as soon as possible so that we can promote that, spread the word, and get people to come. These are just some of our TPA-led Florida Bicycle Month events. The first one is on Tuesday, March 12th at 9 in the morning. I'll be doing a presentation on safe bicycling by educating the public on the many benefits of bicycling, the bicycle state laws, and some of the resources that we have here at the TPA when it comes to bicycle safety. And then the very next day, Wednesday, March 13th at 2:45 p.m., we are doing this helmet fitting event in collaboration with the Lake Worth Beach CRA and Safe Kids Palm Beach County to provide free helmets along Lucerne Ave in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. This is to target the students at the Lake Worth Beach Community High School. So we are very excited for that. And lastly, we will be hosting our annual TPA bicycle ride, March 29th at 8 in the morning. Save the date for that if you'd like to join. We do not have the details for that yet, but stay tuned. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, and again, we encourage you to adopt your proclamation. Please use the template that's on the agenda backup today, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. Okay, so we are moving on. So the next items 4 through E are informational only. There will be no staff presentations unless requested by a committee member. Are there any public comments on any of these items?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that concludes our agenda. Our next TAC meeting is scheduled for March 6th, 2024. At this point in time, our committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.